Hello and welcome to Kyou no Anime. I am Matt, this is Andrew, and this is a podcast where we're going to talk about anime we are currently watching. We're going to be starting from the beginning of any anime we watch on this show, so feel free to watch along with us or go on ahead and enjoy. Just like all your friends you've always tried to get into anime, or that friend who's always behind on what you're watching that you really want to talk about it with, we promise to catch up, eventually. Without further ado, we're going to be starting today's episode off with Season 1, Episode 6 and 7 of Demon Slayer, or Kimetsu no Yaiba for all y'all Japanese viewers out there. Andrew, how you doing?
I'm doing great.
All right, we're super excited for this episode today. So
yeah, I took a ton of notes.
Oh, so did I. It's gonna be a problem. Hopefully, we don't have to split this episode up too. But let's kick it off with our little synopsis, though. After being officially anointed into the Demon Slayer Corps, Tanjiro goes on his first mission to a small town where young girls are mysteriously vanishing. What an interesting start to the episode.
Yeah, I mean, when they told him last episode that this was what his mission was, I was like, is he ready for this? You know, he's brand new. Brand spanking new, honestly. You know what's really cool? The name of this episode is Swordsman Accompanying a Demon.
I always forget to look at the titles.
I actually made it a point this time to do that because I always go, what was the name of this? It had significance.
And I always have no idea.
Yeah. But yeah, I guess, Matt, kick us off where we started this episode.
The first scene was Urokodaki asking the most obvious question. But Tanjiro's shirt, sick.
The green black checkered?
No.
Or the
not the jacket, the uniform and all you see is destroy. You know that says destroy demons.
Oh yeah.
But having that print on the back and everything, that's so good.
It's pretty metal.
Yeah, but then Urokodaki is immediately like, "Did you get changed?" And it's like, you literally were sitting there watching him get changed, you fucking weirdo.
I hope it wasn't
Dad, what are you doing?
Always. But you know, that was actually kind of cool, and this is kind of where my first note comes in because it was not just a uniform, it's like a special fiber that it's made of.
Well, right before that, we got Nezuko peeking out from under the blanket, letting us know that she's awake still.
Yeah,
which I was super happy about.
Yeah, you know, she's sleeping it off. All the things that have happened probably to her over the past of the last, forgetting how many years it was, 4, 5 years training wise. No, it was 2 years. It was 2 years, and then I thought it was another 2 years to do the boulder. I thought it was 4.
No,
total.
I thought it was 2 years total because she had been asleep for 6 months. They called the doctors.
Yeah,
then it went to a year,
when they
and
got
then
and
then he spent another year in training at Urokodaki's.
We were not gonna get tripped up on this for now, but you know, because that was a while ago.
Someone fact check us, please.
Yeah, or don't, please.
No, do it. I want to know.
But yeah, so his Demon Slayer uniform is actually lightweight. It is completely non-flammable material. It's water resistant.
It's fire resistant.
It's non-flammable.
He didn't say
in the dub they said
maybe he said non-flammable in the dub, but it basically said fire resistant in the sub.
Yeah, well, again, that's the difference because we're watching it in two different ways. It's easier for me to take notes, obviously, if it's in the dub, so that's what I'm usually doing.
For sure, yeah.
But yeah, they say non-flammable, water resistant, and depending on the level of the demon, if it's a low-level demon, their talons and claws cannot pierce the fiber. So this actually has some versatility.
I was like, is this just Kevlar?
I mean, it's what it sounds like.
Right?
But it's lightweight. So.
Well, I guess Kevlar's kind of made of plastic, too. So that would probably melt.
But, you know, this outfit has a status and has, actual, not physical weight, but, you know.
It
carries.
It's gonna make a difference for him. So I think that's great. It's basically like
cool.
a uniform that's a form of armor.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Which is also really cool as a concept. I really like when animes do that. Maybe not with the versions of I'm wearing armor that's only a tube top kind of stuff.
Well,
but
that's like MMORPG kind of
yeah,
style things,
yeah.
which thankfully isn't the case here.
But I like the whole like, oh, like I have a full outfit and this outfit is like enchanted or whatever. Because it's always like unassuming.
Yeah, and then after we start talking about his clothes, we talk about his sword that was given to him, like the last episode.
Well, I thought that was super interesting because they were like, black swords are so rare that most people don't know what kind of special properties they have. And I was like, why? Why was the swordsmith upset? Like, are red swords more rare?
He just really wanted to see a red sword appear. I think that was purely it. I don't think it was any other reason.
That's what I'm saying. Though, was it aesthetic or was it like because if it was more rare, you would think you would be more excited. And then they pretty much immediately say, or Urokodaki immediately says that they are actually bad luck.
Yeah, they said they're bad omens, and they typically show that the swordsman won't have any significant growth, which, is kind of sad to hear when you got good boy Tanjiro.
But Tanjiro's an MC, so we're gonna see.
But also, what was the most MC thing he probably said?
I'll try my best.
That, and he's like, I'm not looking for any notoriety. I'm just here to help Nezuko.
Yeah,
and that was purely where he was at with that. He's like, I don't need to make a name for myself as a swordsman, so if I can help Nezuko first before I make a name for myself, if even, that's fine. That's good enough.
Yeah, which of course, good boy Tanjiro,
Exactly. So I'm like, that really just fits his whole vibe.
Yeah, and then
it just works perfectly.
And then right after, we probably got one of the most iconic things of all of Demon Slayer.
What?
The box.
The box. Oh yeah, Urokodaki gives him the box.
Like,
guys.
And he's like, yeah, I made this for Nezuko. It's made of cloud mist pine with a special lacquer that makes it super strong and super light.
Urokodadki is
That's
here.
So difficult.
Given a gift to his boy, Tanjiro.
Yeah, after he asks dumb questions, he deserves it. He's probably been doing that for the last 2 weeks. Are you dressed?
Oh my god.
Did you finish eating?
But also, right before he leaves, and we'll probably backtrack a minute, but the most like dad thing I think Urokodaki did was literally like right before he shoved off, he was like, wait, and he buttons his top button for him. And then he just kind of pats him on the shoulders, like, I'm proud of you, but doesn't say anything. I was like, oh man, that's dad.
Oh man.
That is such a dad move.
So that's the scene that missed for me this episode.
It's poignant.
Like, I like the whole, like, the button the shirt was nice, but like the goodbye just like did not do it for me, because it was like, I pat you on the shoulder and we both nod at each other because we both know what's happening here, and Tanjiro walks away and he does the same thing that he did when he was like leaving his family in the first episode, where he turns around and waves again as if he's gonna say goodbye again when he didn't say goodbye in the first place. And that really like hit me, and I was like, that made me feel a certain way and be like, this scene,
Maybe he didn't want to say goodbye.
Sure, maybe Urokodaki, you mean?
Maybe he left it open-ended so in the hopes Tanjiro would come back. Like, maybe he was just like, if Tanjiro survives all this and he comes back, I don't have to say goodbye. And that kind of makes, it's one of those what you leave left unsaid things might, propel them to come see you and tell you. Hopefully.
If it was like that, I would think it would be something a little bit more like trauma based because of the world they live in.
I mean, that's just me reading into subcontext.
If I say goodbye, they're gonna die.
I mean, also, saying goodbye is so final in such a closing of the chapter.
Well, you can say see you later. You can say I'll be back. Yeah, like that's the whole point of
but also maybe
Japanese has
he's just not good with words though.
Well, it's like Japanese has like itarashai and stuff like that, which means basically like safe travels, or like return back safely. So it's one of those things where it's like, you could say goodbye to someone without actually like saying like sayonara, which is like that final goodbye thing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just assuming it was more of a thing like, oh, they can't he doesn't really know how to communicate this. Also, it's just like,
Sure,
should he?
that was definitely my scene this episode. That was like,
I think I just read too much into like subcontext to find that closure and find that, and I think that's why I'm not calling it a miss. It kind of it like gave me a little choked up moment there, and I was like, oh.
See, when I watched it, I was like, I get it, but it just didn't do it for me because like I felt like Oroku Dadki deserves better. And but it also like leaves me open to being like, okay, like he'll probably be back during another part of this series at least.
One would hope. I mean, he's literally now like a father figure to Tanjiro, and that
but would also
makes ultimate sense.
Would also make sense if he went and got milk and didn't come back. So I mean, we still don't know what happened to Tanjiro's dad, so it's a possibility. Okay,
that's very fair. But yeah, like moving along, he hits the road. He's on his way to that town that he heard his first mission is in. And I gotta say, up till now, this is the pretty.
Really quick before he left, Tanjiro putting Nezuko in the box was kind of creepy. Like that reminded me of a horror anime.
In what way? Cause
he smiled and was just like, "We'll be together forever now, Nezuko," and shut the door.
Oh yeah,
and I was like, "That's horrifying."
Like the closing of a door to a basement cellar kind of vibe. Yeah, if anything was a miss, it might have been that. It's like the doting brothers, borderlining creepy at sometimes, but beyond that, I mean, like. Pocket backpack Nezuko is pretty adorable.
Talk about my brother's overly protective.
Oh God. But yeah, like what I was saying is like as they're on the way, this is probably the biggest town we've seen up till this point.
Yeah. Well, I love how they were like town, and I was like, that it straight up looks like Kyoto. Like that's a city.
Yeah, I was like, but you could see where there's probably like a clear border, and it's not that big.
Yeah, this is a pretty big place.
But it's dense. There's a lot of like homes. There's a lot of businesses weaved up in there. So it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, it was like having a town like that back then when like you have to imagine there's still at least a certain amount of sustenance farming.
Especially like Tanjiro probably doesn't come from any village remotely this size.
Well, so it's like, obviously he doesn't because he's like, what? That's the cool thing for me is like being like, it did look like Kyoto, and like even the background and everything. I was like, this is awesome. And being like, no, there's a whole lot of farmland and stuff like that has to stretch out past those borders. So it's like this town's actually really fucking big.
Yeah. I mean, and it was just kind of cool to see for the first time. It's like literally a show first for us. It's like a bigger.
Yeah,
setting,
well, then we get all the
place,
townspeople being scared of all the girls going missing and being like, oh, it's such a terrible thing.
But yeah, so like that introduces us to our.
Well, I guess first Tanjiro doesn't know
like
if this is the right place, and then that happens.
Well, the guy walking down the street with all the murmurs from all the other people around. It's just like, oh, I took his name down. It's Kazumi. Kazumi. He's like walking around. He looks beaten up. A husk of a person. He's like swaying, like he's in and out of consciousness or sleeplessness, something. And Tanjiro is like, I need to talk to you.
Well, I took that as a great character growth moment for Tanjiro, because I was like, look at our boy talking to a stranger and addressing him like so casually.
I mean, he's always
so
kind of
also
done
I
that.
am watching it in Japanese, so like I don't recall exactly. I should have wrote it down, because I'm pretty sure he called him like kun, which is like a close friends term. Like you don't use that to a stranger. So that's why I was like, oh my god, like look at Tanjiro like being a big man.
Aw. Yeah, I don't recall if he said kun or anything like that. Sometimes they slip those into
the
dub.
Yeah, maybe.
This formality senses sometimes. But yeah, so he goes up to Kazumi, his name,
He's
I'm gonna
very
forget it
not
1,000
important.
times. He's important for now. Kazumi is
I
getting,
guess they do have a moment.
pretty much. Tanjiro's doing the little investigation with him. He's taken his story, and apparently
she just
his
straight up
fiance
vanished.
has gone missing. Vanished
And then
when
he
they
was
were out on a
beaten
walk
for
in the
it
evening time
because
by her parents. Yeah, their dad was like, "You lost our girl. How could you lose our girl?" And he literally
And
turned
then
around and she was
I
gone.
was immediately cracking up at Tanjiro just hitting the floor and sniffing.
Oh my god, I did write that. He was freaking out the townspeople. It's like smelling
But
the
literally like
walls,
hands and elbows on
anything.
the ground.
Yeah, he's just in the dirt smelling
But
like a freaking
that pose
hunting
was
dog.
ridiculous.
And he's just like
like you know what a like you know what a butterfly
I mean,
stretch
it
looks
was
like?
very funny, but what I
Where you like put your feet together
yeah, probably.
and you like push your knees down. It was like he was doing that inverted.
Yes.
With both his hands and his elbows on the ground. It was ridiculous.
Yeah. Man, I like that scene was killing me, but I also what was really making it more funny
yeah.
right before it gets really serious was the jump cuts to that guy just constantly pestering Tanjiro
Just looking
the
at him
whole
like,
time
what
he's
is
looking.
this guy doing?
He's like, why is he doing this? Are you seriously still going? And it's just like, it's getting late. Why are you still doing
So,
this? Like,
you know
"They're
what's
active at night." And it's just like,
you know what's also
losing
funny
it
to me?
at that moment.
For that moment, I literally wrote down, "Ha, rest. We slaying demons, baby."
He's like, we've been doing this all day. We're gonna go all night.
But no, of
son."
course, demons are active at night. Of course, he's gonna be out at night. Rest. You haven't seen what my training looked like.
Yeah, so they're kind of talking.
I believe you.
Tanjiro's giving him like that. They're active at night. I believe you. I'm still looking. I was sent here to investigate this. And then it kind of cuts to this girl, which I guess you're gonna have to assume she's the next victim.
That scene, the actual kidnapping scene, was intense.
Oh yeah, I mean, you hear the faint voice of probably a family member, like a parent, saying,
Yeah,
"I want
don't
you
go
to
out.
stay in tonight. I don't, you're safe here." And as we know, you're not really safe from
we
demons
got that
in your
episode
house.
1. They can come
You're
in.
not. So, she's getting ready for bed. You see this little black
Yeah, and
dot following her on
immediately
the
I was like,
floor of
shadow
her house.
demon?
Yeah, I was like, shadow portal. But then they do like a cut from like underneath, and it looked murky.
Yeah.
So it kind of looked like
and then I
water.
wrote down shadow water.
I wrote for most of my notes, they say
Okay.
puddle. Because it kind of is more
Well,
like a teleport, like a puddle.
I don't know.
dimension. I
We'll
don't know.
talk about it more when it happens.
But he's stalking this girl. She gets in her bed, and then all of a sudden, that black spot turns gigantic, and then you see 2 arms come out of the ground.
Well, first they
wrap around her
creep
face
over
and yoink.
her in this
Yeah,
little.
and she was like, "Oh,
Yeah,
I wonder
hope they're
what happened to
okay.
these
Like, well,
girls.
of course she's gonna be
Where'd they
wholesome.
go?" Yeah, and it's that innocent, doe-eyed, like you know that one girl in a horror movie that's just standing there blinking really like prettily, and then she just gets her head lopped off or something. Yeah. That was kind of like her thing. She was the
I guess
sacrificial
so.
lamb of the episode.
Well then,
almost.
but those hands
was just like, oh,
slowly
no.
creeping over in that like twitchy way is what got me. And then they cut to her perspective and these hands clamping on her face with a clap. I like how they did the cut with the clap too. That was a really good like editing effect.
Shows like good force behind it, and then she goes in there, but immediately Tanjiro's super smeller kicks in.
Yeah, which I did
and he
forget to
smells
say
demon
the
activity.
it did look ridiculous with the way he was sniffing, but when they went into like the smell animation, it's just like a really
those are so cool.
I just love the art style that they put across in the whole anime. Like it's very similar to like the water form but red.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, this is like a
Yeah, and the way it like
aroma that he's smelling. That's kind of how
the way they get it to
pictured it in
move
my
like looks
mind.
like it's actually like wafting on the wind. It's really cool.
Oh yeah. So Tanjiro springs immediately into action, and I feel like that guy
Kazumi, yeah.
Yeah, I got it right, Kazumi. He was like, he's gotta be and then it cuts away before he says like Demon Slayer or something like that, and I'm like, yes,
That's right.
he is. He is a Demon Slayer. But yeah, and then like I guess what happens right
we
after
get
that?
the teeth grinding and chattering, which was horrible on my ears. That hurt me physically.
Oh yeah, I was like, that's
like
super
I would want to
kinda
kill that
creepy
demon
and
out of
unnecessary.
principle. Like just you are disturbing the peace.
I mean,
sir.
that's totally
you
fair.
need to be stopped. But then Tanjiro, like
he's looking. He gets to the trace
right.
of the smell.
Right. I
and he
skipped
doesn't
that,
see
and then he was like,
anything.
okay, well the point.
He's
and
like, this is where the
stabs
smell
his
is
sword
strongest,
into it,
and
yeah.
he just stabs into the ground. And then you just hear the
Well, it's also like
grunt of the
in the Japanese version, you almost get like a splash.
Yeah, it's kind of sounds like stab into water, and then it's a grunt, and then the girl is just flying through the sky.
No, you get that look
Like,
of
she just gets, like,
realization
hurled
on
out of
Tanjiro's
it.
face, and he reaches in and grabs her out.
Yeah, but it doesn't. She was like in
No.
the sky at some point. It looked
No,
like she
that was
was
Tanjiro
thrown.
pulling her out and like literally ripping her out of the demon's hand, which is why that demon's hand still held a piece of the fabric. It was just I think it was just the force in which she was pulled. Like all's we got to see was like this. It was like being in dark water, like water with ink in it, I guess you could say. And
Yeah,
and it was just like part of her dress her outfit that we saw, and then Tanjiro pulled her out.
Yeah, and then before we move along, we get a little flashback from Urokodaki telling Tanjiro essentially that in history there is only one demon that has the capability
Which I was
of
so
converting
excited about,
humans to
and
demons.
it's the first ever demon
mention. This is the first ever mention, and he is the first demon of existence. Muzan Kibutsu.
So good. So good. Which I'm actually kind of glad that you didn't watch the sub now, because we have two very different viewing experiences now.
But also, that's just Michael Jackson. From that shadow figure.
The way we warmed up
Straight
for this episode, not even thinking about it, we started doing the Smooth Criminal song.
Yeah, and I thought it was intentional, and I'm like,
it was absolutely not intentional at all.
I'm now in the vibe and the spirit for this.
All right, I'm not gonna do it
again. But yeah, so we get a little flashback, and now Tanjiro's goal is, I gotta ask this demon about Muzan.
Yeah, and then we get back to it, and bam, there's 3 of them surrounding him.
Yeah, when we thought there was only one,
but Tanjiro somehow
immediately
makes a connection with his super smeller, being like, oh, they all smell exactly the same. They're all giving off the same scent. So one demon split into 3?
Yeah, it's one demon splitting into 3, and they kind of, I think they share maybe different emotions, different traits of some kind, because they're they're a little, each they're a little weird. But we find out specifically that they want to eat girls that are 16 and under because they believe they're like fruit and they unripen.
Yeah, well, we get
after
that
16.
moment of of him yelling at Tanjiro. Well, at Tanjiro
other
at first
half,
because he's
or-
like, "Stop it! Like, she's gonna go bad if I don't eat her soon."
Yeah, which was like,
Well,
I was
yeah.
like, ew, creepy. But then it gets even creepier. I took a note that one of them collects their hairpins and their hair ties of like everything that they've eaten. So he's like, if I'm
Now that I'm
holding
thinking
this,
about that,
I ate them already.
that's really serial killer psychology vibes. Yeah.
It is. You keep a memento.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking maybe this dude
Oh,
was a serial
maybe.
killer in his past life.
Maybe. Oh, wow. That's a good thought. Well, but also the question therein lies is like, well, now are we gonna see demons that are following that spectrum? That would be an interesting trope for the show to follow.
Yeah.
You
I
know,
mean, I
they-
think that would be really cool.
Right, they go across like different forms of like psychopathy by dealing with the enemies. You know how like One Punch Man, all the enemies are based off of like things that you may go through in life.
Segue. Yeah, we kind of had to do a cut here, and we had absolutely no segue into what we were going to talk about next. So, yeah, we're really bad at segues. Anyway,
Like, I got so excited because boom, Nezuko kicks out that back door when Tanjiro's surrounded. He thinks he's about to get taken out by this demon that's actually 3, and bam, Nezuko kicks that door open right into the demon's face.
Yeah, she essentially saved Tanjiro because he was not thinking clearly some of his moves. He was getting frustrated. He was getting a little more crazy.
Well, he was also having trouble because he had to defend the 2 people now with him.
Yeah, and he's now thinking about Muzan and saving Nezuko and his family that passed. And he's just getting angry. And, that's not going to make any good decisions on his end.
Then Nezuko pops off, spins the demon's head around like several times, and then we learn Nezuko was hypnotized?
I think we learn that next episode. No, we learn it just at the end.
It's
of
at the
this
at
one.
the
Just
end of the
at
episode with that is my favorite scene with Orokodaki's voice like playing over and being like never forgive a demon that's done harm to people.
And for clarification, he did hypnotic suggestion and said
While she
every
slept,
every human is your sibling. Protect your family. And then what he said about, never forgive the demon.
Well, it was
they
like
are your enemies.
Yeah, demons are your enemies and never forgive one that harms a human.
So Nezuko, resonating with this, has like a moment where she's like, "Oh, this is my family," and then she springs into action and protects them. It's so cool. And then it just like cuts to black after that, and I was like,
yeah,
"Oh!"
like they end on cliffhangers so often. But what was your favorite scene in this episode?
Oh God, my
Actually, what missed for you first? Because I already said that.
I didn't really have any misses this episode.
Really?
Yeah, I know you were talking about the Urokodaki scene. I did like it. I feel like, because if I say my miss for next episode, it would be kind of a half miss for this episode. So I'm gonna save it for the end.
Sure. But yeah, that was definitely mine. But what was your favorite scene?
Oh, pretty much any time Tanjiro has been using a new form of like sword technique, any single time, because he pops like 3, 4, 5 of them out in this next 2 episodes. So it's really
they
cool.
all look so great.
I know, they're so awesome, and I love
Every
it.
single time I'm like, how many of these forms are there?
I'm like, a lot. Urokodaki had to teach him.
Clearly.
What was it, 10, 20?
I have no idea
I think
how many.
We could probably find that out.
We could find that out, but I like not knowing, honestly, because it's more exciting.
And you
being
get
like,
to see cooler things
being like,
happen
he
in the future.
I've seen the 8th form. Is there a 10th? Is there a 9th? You know?
I mean, yeah.
Like I like having that mystery.
But Yeah, do you have an MVP?
Of course I have an MVP.
What's that MVP, buddy?
My vote for MVP this episode is obviously the box.
Hey, I had a feeling you were going to
The
pick
box is the ultimate tool for Tanjiro. It's the whole reason why Nezuko was capable of being there to help. And it's the whole reason why he can still travel during the day without being burdened by having Nezuko on his back. And the fact that it's so tough and everything like that gives him kind of like this turtle shell on his back that he can kind of go around with all the time. Not only that, like I said, it carries Nezuko, the whole reason why he's on this journey in the first place. And that's going to keep her safe while she's asleep. How could you ask for anything better?
You know?
Oh, really quick, they also mention it in the mini credit scene, like in the mini after credit scene.
Yeah, I watched that. It was really cute.
Like, but they talked about like, oh, isn't that such a great box? Like, I'll make you a bigger box.
Yeah, that was really adorable. But because I had a feeling you were gonna hit me with that.
Yep.
I had like 4 potential MVP
no,
moments.
you have to have
No,
your
no,
own MVP.
I had 4 potential because I was like, this one's staring us blatantly in the face.
Okay.
The box, you know?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't lie, that's a good one. But Urokodaki doing the hypnotic suggestion on Nezuko is going to yield amazing potential. Like in the future, especially right now, this is why she is willing to just step up and defend these 2 random strangers.
You know what? I can't.
So good.
I genuinely can't deny that. But also, it seems kind of fucked up.
I mean, a little bit, but it's giving Tanjiro that edge where he will hopefully never have to do anything drastic to Nezuko.
I mean, it's one of those things where it's like we got like Nezuko acting, right? But in the next episode is what I want to talk about that more about,
which we are going to roll into now.
That's right. Oh, really quick too. Right before that, you know how we got the little like secret at the end that Tanjiro heard the demon was grinding his teeth as a human too. I was like, I feel like that means something. Like, was that like his main body? Is there things that all demons do that, you know, they did when they were alive? You know what I mean? It's like they maybe every demon has a tick. That's like they also did that when they were still alive, when they weren't a demon, when they were still human.
When this guy was still a freaking murderer.
I mean,
and serial killer.
Yeah, probably.
Not a canon confirmation, but I like to think so.
All right, without further ado, Nezuko springs into action to aid Tanjiro against the demon, who's a fucking pedophile. Without any respite, Tanjiro receives his next mission and heads to Tokyo. I gotta admit that is a fun.
It's a fun breakaway. But yeah, this dude is just creepy. He gives me the heebie-jeebies.
Yeah, well, he's only going for 16-year-old girls
and younger.
True.
16 is too much.
True. Well, 16 is just enough because he was saying
one of them said, it's okay.
He devoured a bunch of 16-year-olds in this town. Ugh.
And can I just say, you know, since we saw that guy doing the teeth clacking thing, they're reminding me, because there's 3 of them, of like piranhas.
Oh, I get that. Yeah, and they're almost identical. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
They eat humans. They eat flesh.
Yeah, and it was this kind of like waterish.
Yeah, no, they refer to it in this episode as a swamp.
Let's start it with Nezuko starting the episode off,
giving us those big girl kicks.
Nezuko came through with a great, heel drop on this guy, slams down on the ground. And I was like, wow, like Nezuko really did get pretty powerful. Because she broke the ground, her footprint was embedded in it.
Extremely.
And, that's stone. That's not a joke that she broke that apart,
And also, before we get too far, the title of this episode, episode 7, is Muzan Kibutsuji.
Muzan Kibutsuji.
I know.
I'm so excited.
Kibutsuji.
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 Kibutsuji?
Kibutsuji.
Suji. All right, I'm done.
This is what we were doing
I'll
before.
only say it 10 more times.
But also, I just wrote a quick anecdote of when she started to pop off and stuff. That OST was really fire. That soundtrack was so good behind her right when she was about to start kicking ass.
Oh God, I don't remember it.
Oh yeah, you'll have to listen to it later, but it was solid.
All right, I'm gonna go for it. It wasn't the intro song, right?
No.
Okay. Because I do love Lisa. They make some great stuff.
I mean, that always gets you hyped, but it had nothing to do with the intro.
All right, well. But yeah, and then we know, because now Tanjiro is like, oh, come to me, and we get that idea of, well, first she dodges that, in the most that's the word I'm looking for, nonchalant way possible, where she just does a front flip casually to come back to Tanjiro. And we get the fact that that Nezuko is coherent, even though she isn't speaking. So she is sentient plant now.
Yeah, she can understand. She's like a dog right now. It's just kind of funny.
She photosynthesis, okay? That's how she gets her power.
But at the start of this episode, Tanjiro decides he's going for a swim, and his idea is he's gonna go fight these guys in their weird pocket dimension,
which I thought was a horrible decision, but also
terrible.
Also, it was cool, getting to see what that looked like.
I mean, yeah, but for me, that immediately spiked my anxiety because I don't like underwater and being essentially powerless in a situation.
Yep.
And he just went, I'm going to go do your deepest, darkest fear and hop into a black puddle where you don't see what's on the other side of this. He doesn't see what's in there as far as I know, because it's literally just a black dot.
I mean, I wouldn't do it.
And he was just like, I'm going to go kill these other two. Nezuko, stay here, protect these two humans.
Yeah,
and,
BRB.
Fight that guy. Which is fine because he recognizes that she's way more powerful now than ever. So she can hold her own against this guy more than likely.
Yeah, well, we even get that thought from Tanjiro saying that well, Urokodaki did say she's become a lot more powerful since she became a demon, so I shouldn't have to protect her anymore. So that was nice seeing Tanjiro put trust in his sister again.
Yeah, and then now we get the Tanjiro, he's gonna have an underwater battle. What I thought was cool, and you'd have to let me know if the translation was any different in the sub, but they were like, it's got to be harder for you to breathe down here, and he said the air is thinner on the mountain at Urokodaki's. I'm fine. And he was literally just holding his breath underwater like a G.
It was really similar. The demons were being like, oh, it must be really hard for you to breathe here. The air is so thin, and it must feel like the darkness around you is weighing you down, crushing you.
He literally went, nah, light work, fool.
Pretty much. I mean, he in the translation was very similar. Because Tanjiro was he did say, oh no, the air was thinner on the mountain where he did his training, but my guy, you're not breathing.
At all. And you have to use your total concentration breathing.
You're literally not breathing, and you're the air was thinner. Are you inhaling water right now? What's happening?
There is no air where you are.
Just because it's H2O doesn't mean you can breathe it, guy.
Yeah, so I was like, that was a cool power move moment, but it was also, I feel like, the dumbest idea. So that was kind of a miss for me. This isn't my miss, though. This was just one of those, like, I hate video games that have underwater levels, so this immediately makes me hate you and all of this.
I mean, I really like underwater. Like, I like scuba diving and stuff like that. I think it's great.
I will never do that.
That's it. When we get 100 patrons,
Oh, God, no.
we have to make Andrew go scuba diving.
I already hate this.
Anyway, go check out our Patreon. Our
Or
Patreon.
don't. I don't want this.
You know, patreon.com/Kyoto
I've decided
Anime.
no, thank you.
Please do it, yeah.
But so we get the 6th form move of his that he says he unlocks full potential of in water.
So cool. Well, also the fact that he's like, some moves, not specifying that this is the only one.
Yeah, no, he said some moves.
So
are
in other
heightened in the
words,
water.
it's possible that later on in the show, we'll get to see a more powerful move than this one, which I don't know how you make a more powerful move than underwater twister made of knives.
Yep. I don't know.
Because that's pretty much what it was. Like, they got
Yep.
chopped into pieces.
He did a whirlpool and he sliced them into
And
tiny little bits.
It was so cool.
oh,
And
the coolest.
what I wrote down was, damn, Tanjiro should fight underwater more often.
like he should
Like, he should just draw demons to the water and fight underwater from now on.
just splash at them. Like, get in, the water's fine for your death.
Coke, I'm sure it won't be that hard. Like, look, I'm a tasty human.
That could go really weird. Really weird way if we let it.
Well, maybe that'll come into play later on in the episode.
But yeah, he ends up being able to take those two out in one shot because your good boy Tanjiro over
and
here has
then-
got moves.
And then we get Nezuko in imminent danger.
But not really, because
Well, first she's winning the fight.
She is going out. She is throwing bomb fists right in this guy's face, and he's just like, she's super duper strong. And he said one specific thing that made me very like, He said, man, he must have given her a lot of blood.
Yeah, well, right before that, we get him, like, he gets hit in the chest and coughs up blood and is like, oh, she's so, like, this girl's really strong. And then goes to go into the puddle, and he goes, she's too fast. I can't get in there either. And that's what prompts him to be like, you know, she must have gotten a lot of blood, which I also took note of, which being like, oh, okay, so.
A massive amount. It's actually the exact word they used was,
Yeah.
she must have received a massive amount. And I'm like, from who? You know, like, who?
Yeah, so I was like, the amount of blood affects the strength of a demon. Well, we just learned last episode that it can only be Muzan Hibutsuji's blood.
Yeah, because he's the only one who can turn anybody.
Right, well, it's the only demon blood that can turn anybody into a demon, which I also thought was very interesting, which is a point I will get to later on. But then she's mollywopping him. But then the demon is like, oh, but I can read these movements.
Yeah, because she's very new to
Right, very cut
fighting.
and dry movements. And he starts being able to block her, and then gets that scratch on her forehead. She starts bleeding,
And then Tanjiro pops out of nowhere.
and then he's about to stab her literally through the center of her face with his hand, and Tanjiro flies out of the puddle,
Oh, yeah. And also,
rips his arms off, and literally goes, "Keep your hands off my sister." And I'm like,
then,
oh!
but what's even funnier, he says, he pretty much just calls him Stinky.
What?
He just says, you smell really bad.
Well, first he cuts off the one arm and is like, "Keep your hands off my sister." Then he has this like beautiful Unterhau that like comes up and chops off the other arm, and then is like, "Yeah, you stink like rotten oil."
Yeah. But I was like, oh my god, he just dogged on him and then calls him smelly. I was like, that is the funniest shit.
I did not think about it like that at all. That's fantastic, actually. But what got me about that was that, like, we got a hint at, like, remember us talking about, like, the super smeller thing, and that Oroko Dadki has the super smeller as well, and he told Tanjiro he'd be able to smell how many. So I was right. It is just putrid.
Yeah.
Like, they just smell worse.
I want this to be a staple thing Tanjiro does from now on. He goes, God, you read.
Right? Like,
to every demon he encounters.
but also, it made me think that I don't think that this demon was as strong as the demon he fought in the forest in his examination.
I don't believe so. I just think he had more trickery because of his ability.
Yeah, I agree. I think he had a better blood demon
Art curse thing, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. Blood demon art. That
Curse.
sounds right.
Majigga.
Is it? Is that what they call it though?
I don't know.
All right, we'll have to fact check another thing. God, you're going to hate us in the comments this time, aren't you? I appreciate you anyway.
Hey, it's all good. It's all good. We moving on.
Okay.
Oh, and then he starts grilling him about Muzan, and he starts full-blown panicking.
Yeah, he's terrified at the mention of his name, and I was like, ooh.
And then it gets to like a little like flashback
Of him getting held by the throat, yeah.
and just says, you cannot talk about me.
And just puts his finger in. Sorry, he puts his finger.
We're going to cut that.
Maybe. Puts his fingers to his lips. And that's it, just as in like quiet.
And then Tanjiro ends up just
well, because he's like,
offing him.
I can't, and then he tries to sneak attack him.
Yep,
And he
his
cuts
arms
off.
pop
He
back up.
again cuts off both arms and his
Yeah.
head this time. Which, like, what a strike.
And then Tanjiro was like, God, I didn't get any information out of him. Why? It's just like,
Yeah, and then we had that cute little moment with what's his face? Kazumi. Yeah. That random 3D animation? No. Stop.
no.
Just no. That,
no
like,
more.
What are you doing? The art style's perfect. Stop doing random one scene 3D stuff.
I mean, it's just.
It
it's
looks
okay.
bad. It looks bad.
It's awful when it just gets it's to that point where you just can't not look at it and you're like,
But it's
no.
like I said, it's literally one like 3-second scene of Tanjiro turning around and waving. Why?
Well, you know, there's a lot more that happens right before he
Yeah,
dips out of there.
but I just had to mention that because I hate it.
So Tanjiro is, you know, now looking at Kazumi. He's still kind of catatonic. He just saw a demon, you know. That warrants a reaction like that. But he is really sad because he essentially just found out that his fiance was eaten.
Yep.
Tanjiro is trying to like give him a pep talk because he's a good Tanjiro boy, but it's really unwarranted. Well, not unwarranted. It's unwelcomed by him at that moment.
Well, what do you remember what Tanjiro said?
You got to keep moving.
He was like, no matter what hardships you have to go through, and you know, I know it's bad and everything like that, you have no choice other than to keep living.
Yep.
And that hurt. You know, like hearing it's like
I think he sugarcoated it in the dub a little more, but it's
Maybe,
essentially the same thing. He said he's like, you have to keep moving. You have to like just keep going.
Yeah, I mean in the sub he was like, you know, you have no other choice.
Yeah, I don't think he said it like that.
Yeah, he was basically
But-
telling him like you know, whatever you're thinking right now, it's not an option.
So he starts biting his head off, angry. Obviously, he's really sad.
What would you understand about it? You wouldn't get it. You're just a kid.
And they have this moment where they lock eyes.
And Tanjiro's expression of just like
He's got like
loving pity.
He's got the saddest smile on his face. He's putting on a brave face, and his whole demeanor just shifts.
But it's such a knowing look.
He's like, "Oh, I messed up." He's like, "I'm sorry." And
yeah, and Tanjiro being good boy Tanjiro is like, no worries at all, no problem.
he literally just starts to walk away. He said what he needed to, and then he's like, oh, but when he was waving away, he noticed all the calluses on his hands and stuff, and he was
right
like,
before that we get Nezuko asleep. She fell asleep again, and her bleeding stopped. So I guess she's resting to heal. And
Yep.
I want to know how she shrunk to get in the box while she was sleeping.
maybe she does it like automatically now.
Maybe the box has another power.
Defense mechanism for Nezuko.
Well, I mean,
Drinky dink.
how would she know?
I don't know. Maybe she just does it now.
I think Tanjiro jammed her in the box full size, and then she shrunk in there.
Oh God, I hope not.
They didn't show it. They didn't show it at all. They just showed him like pulling Nezuko towards the box, and then they cut to him standing up, putting it on. So we don't know. I think Nezuko got shoved in that box full size, and then had to figure it out.
Oh, and one more thing before Tanjiro actually leaves the town and concludes this mission, he gave Kazumi the pocket that had all the hairpins in it from all the victims.
Yeah,
So he could have a memento of his fiance.
which had his fiance's bow
Ribbon.
tie.
Yep.
Ribbon, yeah, bow tie. I guess it's not a bow tie because that's not a feminine.
Hair ribbon.
Yeah.
And he's leaving. As he's waving, he notices that this boy, this young kid, has all these calluses on his hand. He's like, this is not a kid. He is not living a child's life.
Well, and then the other thing that
Oh.
got me was Tanjiro was like, I'll leave the girl in your hands then. Bye.
Yeah,
And I
make
was
sure
like-
she gets back safe.
And I was like, Tanjiro, everyone's gonna think he kidnapped this girl.
That is true.
Like his fiance just went missing out of nowhere. A bunch of girls have been going missing. This one is still asleep. Is just gonna appear on the side of the road with a random dude. She's gonna be like, oh my God, why would you kidnap me?
And the fact that people don't know much about demons in general means they're not going to listen to the fact that it's like, no, there was a demon like kidnapping everybody.
Well, I mean, the girl might be like, because
She might.
because
but-
she doesn't know what happened. All she saw was hands above her face that clapped her, and she got dragged into the fucking underworld.
And then she was unconscious.
Yeah, but then waking up with like a mysterious man.
Yeah, so now this guy might be like thrown in jail, executed, or
Right.
something on this behalf of like if
Like, Tanjiro, what the fuck? Go drop the girl off home.
if she doesn't just show up and nobody sees him like with her, then no, he'll be fine. But
Yeah, but
if-
you know for a fact the sun's just coming up. He has to walk through town.
Yep. So there's a really, really big chance that guy's screwed now.
Yeah, obviously.
Damn,
us-
Tanjiro, what the hell?
Right.
I didn't think about that
Like,
at all. Oh my
it's
God.
so bad. Like, obviously, it's us digging into stuff way too much. But Tanjiro, what the fuck, man? You just got this guy royally screwed.
Yeah, if anyone catches him, he has got some splaining to do, and it sounds like a crazy theory.
Like, he already got beat up for something he didn't do. Don't make it worse. But yeah, and then immediately after, moving away from what was funny from that, like, the animators did such a good job with the portraying the anger in Tanjiro's face while he was thinking about Muzan. Like, I feel like he didn't even need to say anything at all. Like, the animators perfectly captured that for me. Like, with him being like, I'll never forgive him and everything like that. It's like, you didn't even need to say anything. I would have gotten that out of context just from the animation.
that, yeah, that is so true. Oh God, I'm trying to find my place in my notes because now that we've moved away from this town, this mission, he immediately gets pinged by his crow friend.
Yeah,
And says he's got another mission.
literally no break at all whatsoever. Like, he's walking away from just killing that demon. He hasn't gone to sleep. it's morning now, and the crow lands on his shoulder, and I love that moment of him arguing with the crow, just being like, just let's just rest a little while. And the crow's like, no, go right now. And then and Tundra was like, just a minute, and the crow's like, shut up and start going.
That was so uncool because he was just like, really?
I thought
Now?
it was so good. But it also brings me back to that first episode with
You?
Kyou, being like, if I had only gotten here a half a day sooner.
Yeah, so maybe they just keep moving.
Yeah,
and
I think
just really like are overworked people.
I honestly, yeah, I think that's the case. But also, it's one of those things where it's like, if you don't act, who knows, it could move. I guess.
Yeah, I mean, and now,
Well, I guess we do know a little bit about like turfs, so maybe they can't really move that much if they have like regions. You know what I mean?
Yeah, maybe they're just like he's the closest.
I guess so.
Maybe that's how they're doing this, because maybe those crows are monitoring where they are.
Oh yeah, but I mentioned to you before we started recording, and I was like, I am so excited for the fact that it's Osaka, Tokyo. Like, that's where the next mission is. I was like, hell yes.
So we cut to where he is now. Tanjiro and Nezuko are in the big city. It is overwhelming. He says, even though it's nighttime, it's so bright here.
He's like, all the lights, but his face in
that
that.
I
so
literally
good.
wrote down Tanjiro's busted ass face and seeing the city killed me. I took a picture of it. We should put it as like an image of this episode.
Yeah, I mean, let me see if I could pull it up.
Oh, it is hilarious.
I can't put it into words. It's so good. Oh my god, just that, like, I'm going back to that look of anger on Tanjiro's face. That's the scene that I just clicked on accidentally.
Oh yeah.
But god, it's just like I said, it's that scene required no words for me.
He's just pulling up busted face.
I need to
Wait, just hit play because it zooms in on the stupid. That is it.
All right, it's full screen on my computer now.
He's cracked out of his mind, guys. This freaking tickled me so hard. I was busting a gut laughing.
Oh my god, what do you remember the old like comics and stuff?
He looks like salad fingers.
Yes. That's that kind of animation. Oh my god, I literally just noticed that. Like, it looks kind of I don't want to say like Rage comic books, because that's not what I mean.
Yeah, no.
It's not meme face.
Creepypastas and stuff like that. Yeah, like all that creepiness. Oh, jeez.
But it's so funny. Like, and then bam, we got trams.
Yeah, there's trolleys, lights, like all this newer stuff.
But I mean, I remember going to like New York City by myself for the first time, so I get it. It's very overwhelming.
Like it's very overwhelming, especially for a country boy like Tanjiro.
Yeah, well, you're used to not being around anyone, then all of a sudden there's thousands of people around you.
But okay, because I don't want to spoil it, but he's very sheltered. He has literally like no interaction with like this kind of technology, anything like this.
Yeah.
Like so this is overwhelming.
Well, he was, as soon as he got here, he's like, I can't believe the cities have gotten so advanced that there's this much light at night now.
Yeah, it's crazy. Also, one of the funniest things, like he's navigating through this like cityscape, and he ducks into an alley because it's dark, and maybe he can catch a minute. And then there's just those two people about to get it on, and he's like, "I'm sorry," and he just runs away. I was like, "Oh my!"
He does like the most formal like
he bows
version of "excuse me." He's like 1,000 apologies, and like
he's dragging a sleepy Nezuko all over the place. He's like half asleep.
Yeah, and then we get a nice udon cart.
Yep, he's out of the city center now, so he's just like, can I get? I think he said a bowl of noodles and like yam shavings. or
Which again,
something.
this 100% reminded me of. I mean, Asakusa is like equally as like busy and stuff like that when I was there. And you do have like street vendors occasionally, so there's nice little carts and stuff like that you can go to. But it did remind me of, like I said, like my first time in New York City and getting to like Central Park and there being a hot dog stand and being like, okay, I can relax for a minute. Like,
Yeah, and then
and then the smelly smell.
he gets his bowl of soup. It looks delicious. His nudes look fire. The guy's like, "Let me know how it is."
It takes a sip.
He takes one sip. Nezuko passes out, and then he catches the whiff.
The smelly smell that smells smelly.
But he drops the bowl, shatters. Heart sad now.
Yeah,
because
I mean,
those
I was sad
noodles-
about it.
Those noodles look.
It looked
rad.
really good.
So he starts running, and he's like smelling this
And he's like, I
crazy
can't believe I would.
scent.
I
of
can't
it.
believe I would smell this here. Why here? Why now?
And then he finds Muzan Kibutsugi.
So exciting! Like finally finds him, and then he turns around and has a human baby in his arms that's calling him dad.
Yeah, has a child. He's pretending to be human.
Which does legitimately make me wonder. Hear me out here. I have a random theory. First of all, we get the idea. Shut up, April. We get the idea. The cat's being loud. Don't judge me. What was I saying? Help, I'm gonna cut it. Yeah. Well, so theory and everything like that. Here it is. The fact that possibly that is his actual child. Nezuko didn't get a lot of blood, but her father's a demon. Thoughts? It would be an interesting twist,
I mean, it would be one hell of a twist.
right?
Yeah, and I'm like, we don't have, I think at this point, too much information.
Well, I very much so, but that's why I'm saying
So,
that is 100% a theory, but it is a theory.
I mean, ride with that theory until it dies.
I will.
But yeah, so Tanjiro finds him. He's having like that inner like monologue of like, oh my god, this person's a demon and he eats people.
How could you not tell?
How can you not tell at all that this malicious evil is here? And then he has his wife show up as well. And he's like, who is this? He's like, I don't know who this is. And then you see the claws
and then
on his hand.
And then he's like, oh, do you, like, you look, I forget what he said exactly, but basically, like, do you look frazzled? Do you need help?
Yeah, and then he quickly, faster than the human eye could count, like
I feel like
catch
Tanjiro saw it.
Tanjiro most definitely did, but normal people, no. He took his claw. He poked a guy in the neck. That guy was like, he's like, what's wrong, honey?
He's fully scratched open the back
And
of his
then
neck.
you see the deformingness coming from the scar.
Like veins bulging. I thought it was actually really cool to see that.
And then the demon, he fully converted a human to a demon in the street.
Yeah, right in front of Tanjiro's eyes, and the guy bites down into his wife's shoulder as Tanjiro yells stop, and you just get that glare from Muzan.
And this is literally like the chillingest moment, and then it just ends. It just ends right there.
Right there.
So
Cuts
you're
it.
like, confirmed that is Muzan. You're like, oh my god,
Not
what
only-
the heck is gonna happen?
Yeah, like, and not only confirmed it's Muzan, you're in a busy city where literally everyone around you can become your enemy in seconds.
Like, Tanjiro,
Like,
you're
really-
not ready.
Really showcasing that power. Well, that's I wrote down. I feel like Tanjiro would have died if he fought him right there. Not just because of skill, but like he was really flustered.
I mean, the kid threw him off.
Yeah, but even before that, like he had such rage built up.
He went in with bloodlust. He went in.
He was ready to go at it. Also, do you think Muzan's like blood power is just using his nails like hypodermic needles?
I guess so.
Because he wasn't bleeding. Like, how did he transfer blood? He just cut the back of the dude's neck with his nails,
Not too sure.
right?
Maybe we'll find out more.
Hypodermic needle nails.
But yeah. So, Matt, favorite scene this episode?
Ooh, favorite scene this episode was just going back to that look of anger on Tanjiro's face, and like him really stating like he has this rage, and it's not just for Nezuko anymore, it's for everyone, that he gets rid of Muzan Kibutsuki. And it's just really exciting to get to see that character transformation for me, with being like, good boy Tanjiro legitimately not only has something that he knows he wants to fight for now, other than Nezuko, but the determination and the like letting out that inner rage that like you would never expect from good boy Tanjiro.
Yeah, that
was my favorite scene. What was your favorite scene?
My favorite scene when, even though I absolutely hate it in every single way, he jumped inside the puddle. And he did the whirlpool slash.
That
and
was
he-
super cool.
He dogged on two guys and then came out and dogged on the other guy.
And was
to save
that
Nezuko.
that was the 8th form, right?
Sixth form? I
6th
believe.
form, okay. So we've seen like
We've seen a bunch.
7 now, I think. 6 or 7.
Yeah. So like he's running through them and they look clean.
Oh my god, every single animation with that looks so good. I just don't like how in majority of anime he has to like be like water breathing. It's like just breathe. It's just
Inhale.
yeah, it's just breathing. You don't have to tell me that part.
So also, I guess we'll go right into your miss. What was your miss for this episode?
The random 3D scene.
Yeah, that always takes you out of it.
It was awful.
Yeah.
And like it was
um,
just bam smack in the middle.
No, that makes total sense.
Like out of nowhere.
It
It
just-
just completely took me out of the scene of like, oh yeah, he had this nice heartfelt moment, and I was just like, I don't care about that anymore. What is this? And why? Why is this
Yeah.
happening?
Fair.
So that
Totally
upset me.
fair. Yeah, so my miss, I guess, for this episode, like I said, it was kind of a hybrid miss for the last two.
Yeah, I'm curious.
The absolute creepy pervertedness and like that pedophilia ass demon being like, I gotta munch these ripe girls. And I was just like, you don't stop it. No.
I do think so. I'm gonna have a weird thing to say because of the whole like about the whole like age in Japan thing, and yeah, all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe it is a cultural thing where it's like equivalent to someone in like Western countries being like, oh, she's 18. Don't get me wrong, the whole like they're getting too old thing is awful.
Yeah, no, it just made me like go, ew, no.
And I mean it's the
Stop.
same thing, like it's still super skeevy to be like, oh well, 18's the best. Like that's
But then it was also mixed with the like, let's keep mementos of the victims.
well, that's where the whole serial killer vibe came in for me. But definitely they were really creepy overall.
That was my miss. I know they did it to be extra creepy, but they also got to skeevy territory, which made me go like, no thanks.
But
I'm okay.
that's what kind of makes me think that this whole thing is like a take on like clinical psychosis, because like if you look at the first demon that they fought, like originally him and Nezuko when they were in the woods and he was about to meet Oroku Dadki, like that one was like
psychotic in the sense of like hyper violent, not gonna take things into consideration, attack, right? And then you go into these guys where it's like serial killer pedophilia vibes, and then Muzan, who's now like masquerading is like, okay, well that's true psychopath.
Yeah. He's like, I want him on my team.
Where it's like, no, I can put this mask on. And, you know, I even though he doesn't have any emotion towards those things.
Yeah.
So
far.
So it's like that's what makes me think like maybe this whole thing is kind of a take on that in terms of like the overall arcs of like what these characters are supposed to symbolize.
Fair.
Which
No,
I think is
totally
a
fair.
really, really cool thing that writers do as a general whole. You know, it's like not the reason why characters can have character development in a fight is because that character represents something in the real world, you know?
Yes.
What was your MVP?
Okay. This one. I feel like
I'm ready for a fight on this one.
it was a little controversial right now.
Let's go.
My MVP, my pick, is Muzan Kibutsuji.
Why?
Because without Muzan, with the abilities to convert people to demons, we wouldn't have a podcast right now. We wouldn't have a show.
We'd have a pod.
We'd just talking about.
We'd have a different show. All right.
We wouldn't have Demon Slayer in our lives, guys.
That's
he
fair.
is the big bad. He is the antagonist. He's the first time he shows up in this series. We can't write him off.
I'm so upset about that because it's good and I hate it. And I hate it so much. I don't want it to be Muzan. I really hope everybody who votes in this poll does not vote for Muzan.
I'm entering my villain era, everybody. We're going. Our picks are going to be hot takes.
All right. Well, we're going to go into my pick. It's the Crow again. Of course it's the Crow again, because if the Crow did not tell Tanjiro to shut up and start walking and get to Tokyo right now, he would have never ran into Muzan.
I mean,
He would have
that's
never
fair.
dropped those noodles.
See, that was my first ever. That was my first pick. I was like, that Crow obviously introduces us to Muzan. But I went, it has to be Muzan, though.
Nah.
Yes!
No, the Crow is being helpful. That is the most valuable player. He's not the most valuable, he's the most hated Muzan.
He is the most antagonistic.
God, I hate
He is the big bad. He has the most importance next to our MC Tanjiro.
I genuinely hate how good it is. Fight me in the comments about it. Well, Andrew, did you have anything else to talk about for this episode?
No, I think we hit on everything. You know, we did our like personal recap favorite things, and you know, we talked in length about both episodes. I feel like we hit on everything.
Yeah, absolutely. We also had a little bit longer runtime than we usually do, so sorry for the extra stuff, but I hope you enjoyed having it.
We prefaced this saying we took a lot of notes on these two episodes because a lot of information came flying at us.
Yeah, we also had a few hiccups in there, so that probably got edited out, but hope you enjoyed watching. Next episode is going to be filler episode where we're going to talk about random stuff, always a little bit about anime. Check out our Patreon, patreon.com/KyonoAnime. Come join the community. We'll be really happy to have you over there, and it, of course, helps support us to keep doing this stuff. Again, thanks for watching, and until next time, you enjoy watching.